Hi, it's Sam here. Today we're down in Weymouth and I'm going to talk through rigging a wasp. So there's many different ways to rig a wasp, but it's not actually as daunting as people may think. I'm just going to show you some top, quick, easy tips to rig your wasp and get on the water as soon as possible. So the first stage is to put your mast together. Now on the wasp it's very important to make sure this mast, the collar, you don't get any sand or any dust, anything on this, because otherwise your mast can get stuck together, which is not ideal. So simply grab top half, and then I like to rig on the ground. We've got a nice big space here without any sand, so I like to put the mast on the ground. Then fetching the sail. Now I always keep the main sheet and downhaul actually threaded through the sail. This makes it really easy when you come to rig and de-rig. Make sure you don't have to thread it every time you sail. So unzip the sail. Now always pull the sail down using the red bit of sail material or whatever colour you have to pull it down the mast. Then now we need to put the battens on. So basically to do that, you put your hand like this, then grab your hand like there, push down using this hand and push onto the mast. So to do that again, so I push down, push batten on, then release pressure, and the batten should be on. So make sure with these that you make sure they do come off very easily. So if you can tie them on, or if you make sure that you're aware where they are at all times, they can easily fall off, especially when de-rigging. They're basically cams, so they give the sail the shape. This one's already on. So the next stage is to grab the boom. And then you need to thread it onto the sail. So I lift it up like this. You hook the boom onto the sail, onto the loop which is already on your mast. And then I pick the corner of the sail up here. Pull the outhaul / kicker. Now I always start by threading this up through the block here, which leads nicely onto the double block on the end of your sail. And then you keep doing that. Now to tie it off, this is an interesting point. When I rig this end bit here, I put it through this loop which holds the double block on, then round the end of the boom, and I tie it off with a bowline. Like so. Cool, so that's ready to go. So the next stage is going to be pulling the rig in and setting up all the controls. The best way to pick up the sail is to usually grab it where the battens are. So I like to unzip the batten pocket so I can really hold the mast directly. And either this in the first batten or the second batten. So in this case I'm going to hold probably the first one. So gently lower the rig and make sure that you get it sitting quite nicely, but don't drop it. Cool. And it also helps if the boat is just about into the wind, not slightly to one side. So pulling the sail down again, close the batten pocket, and you're ready to now attach the controls. So the first control that I like to attach on is the downhaul. So to do that, you pull the control through the trampoline here and tie a small slip knot here so that you've got a lot of slack in the system. I like to make sure that I've got. So what we're going to do now, I didn't finish that sentence then. So what we're going to do now is attach the downhaul onto the sail and then the mast. So I have a shackle up here, which I'll undo now. And then put the top of the downhaul there. Always make sure there's no twist in this downhaul because even a single twist can make it a lot harder to pull on. Right, so now for this lower one. So I actually need some more slack in the system, so I'm going to go around the other side and tie another slip knot. So this gives me plenty of slack in the system. That means I can pull this downhaul down to the other shackle, which is I leave on the mast. So now you've put both shackles on, you can now pull this rope to remove the slip knot and gently pull down on the controls. This makes it easier to put the kicker on, which we're going to do now. So as you can see, this is attached to the end of the sail. I untie my temporary knot that I tied there. And actually I pull a bit of downhaul on here, which lowers the sail, gives a bit more slack in the system. So I thread it through the block and then up through the cleat. And now finally I tie it onto my control line, which I have on the side of the trampoline. This allows me to easily adjust this whilst I'm sailing, so I can just pull that. Cool. Zipping up the front here, I then grab my main sheet. Thread it through the block, which should be rigged, so obviously the ratchet comes on when you pull it through. And then I tie 2 figure-of-8s. Because if you tie one, normally it comes undone, and that's not what you want when you're doing 25 knots. Cool. And then moving to the back of the boat here, to thread the main sheet, just make sure your block isn't tangled up. Put the main sheet through. And I'd simply tie a bowline at the end here. Cool. So pulling this in now, you can see everything's working. So normally my preferred method to launch is to launch it upright into the water and then capsize it in about knee-deep water. So when I've capsized the boat in knee-deep water, I can then take the trolley up myself without the boat floating away without me. Right, okay, now we'll capsize it. So. And then we kind of need a heavy bag on the end of the sail. Right. Remember to breathe is what my watch says. That's quite appropriate. So assuming you've now capsized in knee-deep water, the first thing I do is take off the trolley. So if you head to the front, I've got a small rope that attaches the trolley to the boat. So simply undo that. Now I head to the back of the trolley, where I undo the straps holding the trolley to the rear of the boat. So just simply now slide the trolley forward and it'll come off. So I'm now here using the new big foil, which is exactly the same as the previous version, just only slightly bigger. So same process once you're launching. Simply pull out the foil. Make sure your stopper is correctly set so the foil doesn't pop out the bottom of the boat. And then if we head to the rudder, do the same on this. So now next stage is to grab these pins, which I've put on the small bits of elastic, and you just got to work it in. There should be a really tight fit. So doing this here, this elastic also keeps it under tension and stops it falling out. So the rudder is all set and ready to go. Okay, so we're now going to put the main foil pin in. So to do that, you simply got to get this pin. I generally set it on the middle hole. It's very rare I use any other hole. And that should be in tight fit again. With this extra loop of elastic I got here, I put it around the other side and over the end of this pin. And that stops it from coming out when you're sailing, because you don't want that. Next thing to do is to reach forward and take off the piece of rope holding your wand and push your wand forward. So that allows the wand to, it relieves the stress in the system and allows it much easier for you to put the ride height adjuster on. Okay, so for the ride height adjuster, I have about 5 turns in the rope, and then I've got a setting so I can simply just unclip and put it straight on like this. So now you're set to go.